and welcome to another episode of The Screen Chronicles. My name is El Stevo, and with me as always is Cobestone, the Griffin. Skål, everybody. Because you know what we're talking about today. We're talking season 1 of the show Vikings. It's the time we did this.
It is. Now, just a little history for, how Steve and I got into Vikings. We had originally watched The Last Kingdom, which became our favorite show, and we just, felt such a withdrawal after we were done with that we needed more from that sort of time period. Vikings was the next up for us, and we really enjoyed the series coming after The Last Kingdom. It is kind of a prequel in ways to The Last Kingdom, we found. It doesn't exactly line up with the events of The Last Kingdom.
The Last Kingdom, that we know the Vikings are there, that the Saxons know about them, that they're this threat. So it's nice to actually see before they were that, what was there. What was their culture like? How'd they get there? That's what Vikings did, and so we're like, oh, this is like a prequel.
It's kind of like a prequel for us, so it was cool. It really kind of satisfied our hunger for more kind of Viking and medieval time kind of shows. So
first, we're going to do a non-spoiler review, and then we're going to do our spoiler talk after that. What are some things that you really liked about the show Vikings?
Well, first of all, I love the main character, Ragnar Lothbrok, is the freaking man, especially early on in season 1. We'll get into some of the reasons more specifically why, but he is, for me, even now looking back on the show, the most memorable part of the show, and really the face of the show is Travis Fimmel's portrayal of Ragnar Lothbrok is just fantastic. And I think even now, like in season 6, you can see some of the characters still trying to emulate some of the things that Travis Fimmel did as an actor to portray Ragnar Lothbrok, and kind of getting that kind of beginning story of how the Vikings sailed west.
Yeah.
And what the events were to follow that. And then what I really like about the show is it really encouraged you and I to do our own research on what's real. I think the show sometimes relies on myth, so some things happen in the show that are definitely myth, and it is historical, though, because they're based on real myths that they believed in.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what I really liked about the show. The acting's really good. The storyline's pretty good. The plot's pretty good. It's in season 1. I liked it. And the action is solid.
We were coming from The Last Kingdom, so one of the big things we really liked was shield walls. They get there. I wouldn't say they're at the same level of shield walls as the first 3 seasons of The Last Kingdom, but they still satisfy that that itch. Battles, and they're pretty realistic and gritty. That's what I really like. And like what you were saying, the characters, I like them all, a lot of the main ones, especially too this first season. I like Ragnar, Lagertha, Rollo
too. Yeah.
Little Bjorn, Floki. I really like Tolstein. We see more of them in season 2. And then
I like Eric, the guy with the big beard.
I was just gonna say I love Eric.
He was awesome.
Eric Martin? I don't know, but he was awesome, dude. He also voiced a guy in Skyrim. I was like, I know that voice. I know that voice. Mm-hmm. So definitely the characters. I'm with you. One thing though, I guess some people really like, and sometimes to me it's just a little confusing, is whether it's fiction or whether it's fantasy or historical fiction at times.
Well, that's the thing. So it's on the History Channel. Right, so
which means nothing. That means nothing for the History Channel.
Which I think made us kind of going with the preconceived notion that it was going to be leaning toward historically accurate, especially coming out of Last Kingdom, which we know is a fictional story that really kind of stays true, though, to a lot of the events of the formation of England.
Yeah, Bernard Cornwell, the author of those books, and then Stephen Butcher, they really try and base a lot of it in as close as they can to historical things, with still embellishing some drama and some new other. And
I mean, the main character is a fictional character in it, but he interacts with many, real characters. So in this show, I think we were going in with the notion that it was, real, but pretty quick. You kind of pick up on. I was like, okay, that seemed like a little too strange.
Yeah,
there was too mythical.
The opening scene. There's some, I guess, supernatural things that happen, and I thought, we were going to get an explanation for why we saw that supernatural thing early on, because the rest of that episode feels pretty real. But it's like I was confused at the time, and when I went back and watched it now, I understood. That's just what the show is.
We're questioning, are they on mushrooms and we're seeing what's in their head, or is it part of the show?
Yeah.
So I think once you figure that out, though, it's not a huge deal. You still enjoy it, and again, I think it really prods the viewer to do their own research to see what in the show really happened, and did it happen like this? And why are they seeing these people come from the sky, or why are they seeing this guy walking around? And then that lends into the real historical beliefs that they had, which is also educational, I think. But I think it prods the viewer to do their own research in a lot of ways.
Into the events and the mythology too, which is Viking, Norse mythology is just awesome.
It's awesome. It can be very silly, but it's awesome.
and with those, when they're showing these supernatural or mythical things, the imagery for it is just great. The imagery for the fights, the cinematography, direction, all that stuff it looks really good. Sometimes I feel like they rely on it too much, when they really don't have like a coherent plot for like an episode or the pacing, they kind of just rely on that, but you can't deny it looks freaking good.
It does.
Yeah. So then some negative things about the show. You had talked about this season, you had really liked the plot. I really liked the plot, I guess, up until episode 5 or 6. There's this whole conflict between Ragnar and another character that really builds, and it really drives the show. And then it just kind of it ends right in the middle of the season. And then the last few episodes, even though there's some really good parts, and I think the episode after this other character's conflict is resolved is one of my favorite episodes from the season. But again, I didn't feel like there was any sort of structure to A to B. What's the arc of this season? It's not like a traditional show, I guess, in that sense, but some people might like that. For me, it's just kind of sometimes like, where are we going, guys? Where are we going?
Yeah, I think it doesn't rely as much on plot as some of the other shows we watch.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, though, as far as when you look at the whole show, all the seasons 1, 2, I think had better plot than some of the later seasons. But I would agree, it's not as plot driven. It's more character driven and history driven. Basically, the way I kind of look at the show is that the show writer, I think he takes all of these myths that are known and these writings that are known from the time period and these characters that are known from the time period, and I think he does his best to put them all together. Because we know, for example, well, we'll get into it more in the spoiler talk, but not all the characters existed at the same time. I think he's just doing his best to kind of get a comprehensive look at the myth, the history, and the characters all in one go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just another negative thing for me, I guess, for me is, coming off of another, like we just said, we came off of The Last Kingdom. Before this, there was a lot of politicking and scheming, but there was also a lot of camaraderie in the show. We talk about our best bro moments from the show all the time from The Last Kingdom. With this, I never really feel like there's any stable, healthy relationships in the show. I feel like everyone is trying to scheme another person or screws over another person in some way. And so that's just one thing. I never
I do
feel
see
like
it a bit.
we can rely on these people together.
I see it a bit like the bros with Leaf, Eric, Torsten, Arn, those guys.
Yeah.
Like they are kind of a bro group right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, but they don't harp on the bro moments between them as much as like Last Kingdom does with that bro group.
Just sometimes I feel like there's just some people scheming and doing bad things just to show that they're bad or that they did something bad. We'll talk about one of our favorite scenes, when we get to the spoiler part with the king, and when he does something just ridiculous. It's like, why? And it was just to drive home that he was a bad guy, I guess. And
yeah.
So I mean that to me is just the epitome sometimes of what the show is. And I think if you like season 1, you can at least get into the later seasons and like it. If you don't like season 1, you're not going to like the rest of the show because there's a lot more of that.
Yeah,
but
it gets more. It gets more and more, I feel like, as it goes. Yeah, I did really enjoy Vikings, though, overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Overall.
I think anyone who is into that, historical fiction or even fantasy, that sword medieval sort of thing, if you're into that, the politicking, if you're into that, betrayal,
If you're into the history.
if you're into history, anything like that, I think you should definitely check it out. If you're someone that always needs a long overarching plot or, constant on the point character motivations, this might not be the show for you, but I think give it a try. At least give the first season a try. And so, yeah, I still liked it. I love the show.
Okay. What do you give it as a rating?
I gave it an 8 out of 10. What'd you give?
I give 8.5 out of 10.
Ooh. Screen Chronicles 8.25 right there, people.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a solid B. So
yeah.
So watch it, people. Let us know what you think too. If you haven't already seen it, go see it. Come back. We're gonna get into our spoiler talk though.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert.
All right. Let's talk about though an iconic opening scene to a show.
Yes.
And that's what this one had. And that's this very memorable opening scene. We get myth and action right away, and we get to meet our main character, Ragnar. And they've just finished like a battle, or they're finishing up a battle, as we get to see a couple of like awesome action moves, like when Ragnar thrusts the sword through the guy's torso, and it's like a slow-mo like thrust. It's pretty awesome. And you see Rollo also taking out a couple guys, throwing Ragnar an axe, and it's just kind of a cool opening sequence. What do you think of this opening sequence?
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, this is the scene I was talking about earlier. When first time I saw it, I was kind of confused. I thought it was a dream because it was this hyper real looking environment, but they had, the East Baltics or something like that. Somewhere where the Vikings were raiding into the East.
In 793, I believe.
Yeah. And they show, they're fighting. It's just these two guys, though, on a hill, all these other dead
lot of dead bodies.
There's ravens. It just looks like what you would picture of like from a Viking sort of myth. But I'm like, all right, this is on the History Channel or whatever. It's we just saw Last Kingdom historical fiction show. Here we go. And then all of a sudden, some Valkyries start to grab guys off the battlefield and carry them up to Valhalla. And
this wanderer wearing a hat and with a staff is walking
Odin,
through.
I think?
Yeah, it's supposed to be Odin on the battlefield with a raven on his shoulder. Yeah, and the Valkyrie come down and pick up some of these guys and take them right up, and it's just right away. We weren't sure if this was in his head, what was going on, or what was going on.
Because they never talk about it. They never talk. Yeah. They later in the show they do talk about the Baltics and raiding in the Baltics when I rewatched it this time, but I didn't pick up on it the first time, and I was just like, "What the hell is this?" They never talk about that scene again. They never said, "Oh, thanks Ragnar for saving me," or "Thanks Rollo for helping me out."
Thanks for throwing me that axe, bro.
Yeah, and
appreciate it, man.
Did you see Odin walking around when we were there?
Yeah.
They never elaborate on that. So I thought, oh, this was a dream, and it was a dream. All right, we'll move on, because then the rest of the show, they start out talking about the laws. They start to show the town's laws and raiding.
What's our favorite law? What's the law? You can if you murder somebody, you have to tell the first person. If it was in self-defense, right? You have to tell the first person you see that it was in self-defense.
And walk by 3 houses. I think
you can't walk by 2 houses.
Oh, 2 houses.
But that's only if you believe. But this is a fine line. Read the fine print. That's only if you believe that there are the person that you killed's family in those houses. Because I think the guy's like, even in those circumstances, you can only go by 2 houses. Before telling somebody, and it's like, yeah.
I mean, we start to see like this historical world building part, and then I'm like, oh, this is the show.
Yeah, we see the hierarchy. Okay, they have an earl of the town. Ragnar's a farmer. Okay, yet also a warrior though. We see him training his son with wooden swords and shield, and that's one thing we've learned through some of our talks with people who created the Last Kingdom, is that it seems like a lot of Vikings were trained at an early age anyway to fight. Whether they became farmers or the Vikings who actually traveled, but the Scandinavians, I should say. I guess we can't label them all as Vikings, but still, it's cool. It feels like we're building this historical world. We meet Lagertha, who
Ragnar's wife.
Ragnar's wife is a very
smoking hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anyone who's seen the show doesn't know that, but in case you're new, now you know.
Now you know. She's awesome, and she's also a warrior. So let's just talk a little bit about the history, though, too. Who is this Ragnar dude, that Ragnar Lothbrok, who we're meeting here? Well, if you look up the history, and we're not going to talk about all of his history because it might kind of get into some spoiler talk of the later seasons, but just basically, he was apparently a Viking sea king. In legend, he was a very legendary figure that it's kind of ambiguous. Did he really live? Did he not? A lot of the different stories have him marrying different people, have him having a different amount of sons or sons of different names, or being king of this place or not. It's very, he died this way, he died this way. There's a lot of different recollections, but there are a lot of stories told about him.
Yeah.
And the people that are supposed to be his sons really did exist. And that has been proven.
Was he made legend because he was this great, innovative, warrior? Or was he already legend and they just sort of slapped this on a guy who really did exist and maybe wasn't as cool, and maybe he wasn't even named Ragnar. Maybe he was just Bjorn. Common name like Bjorn, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's such an interesting thing too. And after watching the show and after reading about the stories, I want him to exist. I hope he was real. But apparently I've read some historians have said that there is no evidence that he was real other than these writings. There's no actual physical evidence that they found like they've found with his sons, his alleged sons. Mm-hmm. And so he has his wife Lagertha, who is also, I guess, a mythical person. Yeah, she was,
I don't know. Again,
a warrior, a mythical warrior, maybe existed, maybe did not. Some of the stories about her obviously were not real, but was she inspired by a real person? Maybe. But the fact is that she's in, primary sources of the time period. And then they kind of put her into the show. And I think at least one of the sources I read had her marrying Ragnar Lothbrok.
Yeah. That's one thing you have to take into account too, is I don't think there was a lot of material available back then. A lot of people didn't know how to read or write. Records just weren't kept on everything. They didn't have YouTube channels and podcasts to talk on to.
So actually, a lot of the writing of the Vikings didn't come until they started sailing west, and when they were kind of introduced to Christianity, that's when a lot of these stories start getting written down.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And they're often portrayed in a different way too. They're sometimes portrayed as demons, and that's why there's the horned helmets, sort of came into play.
Yeah,
because they never had horns on their helmets. They had regular helmets like these, and so it's so much. It's where does it begin or start? And maybe that's where Michael Hurst, the creator and writer, maybe that's where he went. But at least when we first start, though, it's kind of hard to tell where things go.
Yeah.
And definitely in the later seasons, there's much more of the fantasy stuff. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're just, here's Odin, and he told them this, and that's the way it is. And you're like, okay. And sometimes they just show something just for some imagery. It is a dream. Sometimes they just end the episode with someone just covered in blood for no reason. And but it's at least though now, like we were saying, the first episode, it starts getting into Ragnar, this ambitious man. He wants to raid somewhere else. He wants to actually get some wealth. Where they've been raiding in the Baltics, like we see at the beginning.
Yeah, they're poor too. Think about it. Yeah, and
they want
if they raid them year after year, they're not going to have anything left. Where's your money? You took it last year. Ragnar's taken his son Bjorn, who the young man who plays Bjorn is awesome in season 1. We love him. And he takes them down to Kattegat, which is like the big town of whatever part of Scandinavia that they're living in. They go to what's called the Thing, which is sort of like their Witten, I guess. So they talk about what they're going to do. They talk about where they're going to sail, and they do trials.
Are you going to the Thing? You're going to get your first arm ring at the Thing?
I picked up on it when the Sven, the guy who's Earl Haraldson's right-hand man, went to Bjorn later on and was like, that's when you were at the thing. And I just thought like, oh, the actor forgot what it was called and called it the thing, and they just left it in. No, it's called the thing.
So next time someone tells you that, we're going to the thing, where they're heading to like the Viking version of a Witten or a town meeting. Or
yeah.
But back to that, I love the first town meeting that we were talking about, the trial there,
Yeah.
And one guy, what did the one guy do that they just throw shit at him? I forget what
stole. I think he was caught stealing.
Yeah, so that was like, just throw some stuff at him, and
that was like a kind of a grovel. It was a sort of kind of grovel, except they didn't have to kiss, the cross or anything, or get on their knees, but they got to chuck stuff. And it's mandatory that you throw something, which I love. I love that. You'll be fined if you don't throw anything. They do a public execution of the guy that apparently killed someone in self-defense, like he said, but he didn't tell anybody quick enough. He needed to tell someone. Listen, you got to know the rules. You got to know the laws of the land, okay? You got to know the laws. Otherwise...
And you're in this small town. You'd think you'd know all 7 laws, you know what I mean?
So does that mean you could just murder someone and then
if you tell
the next person? Yeah, it was self-defense. Yeah.
Sounds good. That works.
No.
But they do show that the King Haraldson, who ends up becoming the main,
or the Earl.
Sorry, not the King, Earl, the main antagonist. He isn't really a fair guy though. That guy who he eventually said, well, all right, or we're gonna kill you, and he's like, okay, I'll go by beheading. Everyone's cool with that. They're like, all right, he gets to go to Valhalla. Good honor on him.
Yeah.
And after it's done, the Earl's like, throws body to the pigs and gouge out his eyes.
That's right.
So he can't go to Valhalla. And you're just like, all right, this guy's going to be the jerk.
Yeah. And Ragnar's like, he shouldn't have done that. He tells his son, that was a bad thing that he just did. Yeah. So we've kind of established who the bad guy is going to be. This Earl Haraldsson, and Ragnar basically calls him out at like the next day or something at the thing, I guess.
Another thing.
And he's like, where are we going to sail? We want to know. And Earl Haraldsson is just like, all right, I'll tell you. We're going to go the same place we go every year to the east. And
Ragnar wants a new vacation spot.
Yeah.
He's tired of the same house at the same beach with the same people every year.
He's trying to go somewhere new. So he suggests it, and basically Earl Haraldsson is just like, I'm not going to risk my ships, because apparently the Earls owned all the ships.
Easy way around that.
Yeah, easy way around it.
Get your own ship.
Yeah. So he doesn't want to go there. Ragnar still does. And later in this episode, we meet Steve's favorite character. Floki.
And I love him this season. Later seasons, he's, we'll talk about that later seasons, but I love him this season. He's so spunky, and he laughs at all the wrong times, and he's great comic relief.
He is. He's just so weird. He's also brilliant. And it shows him, finding a tree to cut down. And I was just thinking, is he going to cut that down with his little axe? I guess so. No. But I like how they show him like explaining to Ragnar how the ship's going to work and how, it's going to float on the waves.
See them on the boat, the Viking ship, test running it, and then eventually heading to England, the first spot. But I really liked that scene. I really liked all the sailing in the ships. That's one thing I wish The Last Kingdom had more, with some more ships, especially after reading some of the books now.
Yeah,
a lot more of that
ships in the books.
That's a big part of their culture. That's really what helped shape them, and it also made them big innovators. That we heard Nick Murphy say it's a space shuttle
of its time.
Yeah, of its time, and that's what it felt like too in the show. I thought they did a really good job capturing that, especially when they're first sailing to
Lindisfarne. Which is historically the first place they landed.
Yeah,
as far as they know. At the monastery there.
I love just the raining too. With before that, like you said, they didn't know if they were going to make it, but then Loki just gets motivated, and they're like, that's Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, pounding on his anvil. Oh my god, and that's one thing I love. I love all the mythology they talk about in the show.
Yeah, and they think that he's angry with them. They think the gods are angry with him for going there, I guess.
Yeah.
And it takes them a while, and some of Ragnar's crew grow weary. And one guy even starts to stand up, and Ragnar's just not having it, so he murders him and stabs him in the neck.
Yeah, no one cared about that guy. Like,
I know.
Any other time, like, oh, you killed somebody, we're gonna have a thing for that. We're gonna.
Yeah, how come Earl Haraldson wasn't like, yeah, what happened to Steve?
Most likely his name was Bjorn. Bjorn. Might have been Stevenson, though. Bjorn Stevenson.
I guess so. Leading up to that, though, he had to meet in secret. And we have to talk about this.
Okay.
Because Earl Haraldson had a spy, and he goes immediately and tells Earl Haraldson, as a good, loyal man, like, it's his first thing to do. He's like, yeah, they met. Yep, they met. And Earl Haraldson's wife, Siggy, is just sitting there giving him the eyes. And he, like, sort of looks at her, but, like, you know.
He knows he shouldn't be looking
at he shouldn't. So
the Earl's wife. So he's like, all right, focus back on conversation.
Earl calls him out. He's like, you looking at my wife? No, would never. He goes up to him and tells him, like, you can sleep with my wife. Like, if she wants to, like, I'll set it up. You know? Like a friend, you know? Like,
and the guy's like, oh, no way, man. No.
I would never do that.
And he's like, I'll set it up.
Really? It's okay. I promise. It's okay. You can do it. I'm telling you. And so he does.
He goes into bed with her. She's laying there. She invites him over, basically. They start doing the old horizontal tango, and she just starts beating the hell out of his face.
You really think you could sleep with me? Oh, my God.
And then King Haraldson and all of his guys walk in, and they rope him up, beat him. They're like, you really think you could have done that? You fool.
Wow.
You think so little of me? Even though I told you? And I basically made you?
Yeah.
Like, you fool.
Yeah.
And they kill him.
This poor dude.
He's
like, been like so loyal to him. He's like spying on his enemies for him, and then they're all paranoid about, like, yeah, we don't know who we can trust now. Like, it could even be our own men. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this was another scene where they were just showing that this Earl can be a douche, and I just didn't think that it was necessary or that made any sense. And, like, to me, like, this is the epitome of any future season where there's just like some drama being made for like no reason, just to like show that someone's bad, or just because they want to have a character get with someone else or something like that. To me, though, this is like the epitome. I mean, the first time we were watching this, we were laughing, we were dying. Like,
then they go out and kill him. Svein kills him, and oh my God. This poor dude, he's been he's worked so hard to get where he's at.
King says, go spy on Ragnar. I'm worried about
he was the executioner in the first episode. Like, he's just been a team player. He's been a team player. But what do you think of his Earl Haraldson right-hand man? Oh my God.
That Svein guy, I hate him.
Oh.
Yeah. He's in the Last
Kingdom. He's in Last Kingdom.
He brings Eric.
There's Eric on the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he makes your blood boil in this show for sure. In Vikings. Oh my God.
I mean, later on when he goes to Lagatha, when Ragnar is out sailing again, doing bad things, going raiding, getting money, he comes to the town or her farm, her and Ragnar's farm, and tries to take a kid. Eventually takes a different kid, and again.
Try to take Ragnar's son.
Yeah, and again, he takes a different kid, though. I think one of the slaves that works the farm. Or maybe a farmhand, I don't know.
Maybe it was another farmhand, I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't. But he... and then this kid, he gets killed by King Harold. Even though Ragnar's come home, and at this point and everything... I mean, this is later in the show, but, like, again, it was just another moment. It was just like, they just wanted to show that, like, these guys are jerks,
Yeah. I get why he killed him in that instant, though, because he had just buried his horde.
Yeah. Well, they brought in the mythical thing and all that,
Right.
but I mean, the plan was to hold him as hostage so Ragnar would come back, but Ragnar was back, and that they didn't give back, and
they needed somebody to dig the hole. So they end up sailing west, Ragnar and the boys, and I love the shot. It's like there's mist on the water, and there's one priest or a monk walking along the beach, and it shows like the dragon head of the Viking ship, or the serpent head, whatever it is, coming through the mist as if it's a beast coming. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like, when I think of Vikings, that's like what I think of. I think of that kind of ship sailing to shore. And so this would have been trying to document the first time that they know of it happening at Lindisfarne in 1793. Or in 793 AD, 1793. It was after the United States.
2007.
In 2007. In 793. So a really cool shot. And then the Vikings, it's so interesting. The monk goes back, and all the monks are like freaking out. Like, what do we do? Let's go and lock the doors, and
it works.
Yeah, the Vikings just like walk up to this monastery. They have like a way of unlocking it where like they like knock out the hinges, I think.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. Like, I don't look that up. I didn't look that if that was like a real way.
It was funny how easy it was, though. The gates barred and all that, and they're just like, we'll just take the hinges off and it'll just fall over.
And I gotta say, Travis Fimmel in the Ragnar costume looks so badass, and the way he like looks around, I don't know, it's just,
he's a real intense gaze too. Just
I
mean,
he does.
I can't do it because I'm not that intense looking when
I know. But he just does. They basically walk into the same room where all these monks are praying. They just kind of look at him like, what the heck is going on? And I think one of the head monk or something.
It's Cuthbert. It's
Cuthbert. He stands up.
I don't know if it's the same Cuthbert that we always hear of in
Saint Cuthbert,
the Last Kingdom books and all that. If that's the same guy, Saint Cuthbert, that Bianca, big fanboy of.
Yeah, big fanboy Saint Cuthbert and his comb and
teeth,
and they have in season 4 of The Last Kingdom, they have the heart of Saint Cuthbert, and that's kind of a very Northumbria thing. And I guess there was really a Saint Cuthbert at Lindisfarne. Yeah, so the timeline doesn't really match up because Lindisfarne apparently happened in 793. Cuthbert, who became Saint Cuthbert, his life was 634. He died in 687. Okay, a little over 100 years before that happens.
So
but he was at Lindisfarne. So maybe it was supposed to be somebody. Maybe it was supposed to be him, and they're just kind of again combining it because we know. Yeah, for example, like Rollo and Ragnar, they're brothers in the show, but Rollo was born in the mid 9th century, and Ragnar, if he did exist, allegedly was born at the end of the 8th century in like 795 or something.
In the old 700s.
In the old 700s,
back then. Or maybe he was another guy named in his namesake. I don't know, but it was cool.
It's cool that
Cuthbert. And it makes us look up stuff,
Makes us look up stuff. Is this accurate? Wouldn't have actually been Cuthbert in real life, but he's the first to get killed, I think, by Rollo. Right? It was Rollo who killed him first. And he just like started praying, I think, in Latin. And Rollo just is not having it.
Well, it might have been in whatever English, that old English they were speaking. But it's an easy kill.
It's an easy kill. And then after that, they just go ham. So it makes me wonder, what was Rollo thinking? Like, oh, are these weird? Is this a weird religion? Are they like putting spells on us or something? Like maybe that's what they thought. And they just start murdering these dudes at Lindisfarne and, stealing what treasure they found and things like that. And it's just a massacre, just an absolute massacre.
Fish in a barrel, they don't fight. I mean,
and they're confused.
You're like, oh, these are the good guys. The Vikings are the good guys of this show.
Yeah, exactly. They're the good guys. They're the guys we're rooting for to kill these monks that are just
those helpless guys,
helplessly praying, and they're just slaughtering them. Here we're about to meet another main character of the show called Ethelstan, who they had actually been showing little hints of before. He was like prophesizing that something was going to happen, that evil men were going to, that evil was about to come. Remember that?
Demons.
So there's another example of like
some supernatural
things in the show.
Going on.
Ragnar encounters him, and Ragnar, he's like backing away, and he speaks in their tongue. But he intrigued. Ragnar's like immediately intrigued by this monk.
Yeah, Ragnar's a curious guy. That's what
He's very curious.
I really like about his character. He's consistently curious, and he wants to know things. He's, you see guys like Rollo who are like the hammer. They come in, they want to conquer, they want to get that stuff and get out. But then Ragnar, he wants to figure things out. He wants to understand. And so
exactly,
here's a guy he can use to understand some of the English, and he comes into a big help, later on down the line, which is I thought was pretty cool.
And so here comes that hammer. Rollo tries to just kill him. He's like, why aren't we killing him? This doesn't make sense. And Ragnar says he forbids it. Now, here comes an interesting thread in the show. And this goes back to episode 1, is that when they were discussing going on this journey, Rollo is very particular about wanting to be equal with Ragnar. Mm-hmm. We are equals, right, brother? And Ragnar assures him, like, yes, we are equals. We'll always be equals. And so when Rollo wants to kill this guy, he's like, I thought we were equals. Why are you telling me I can't do something right now? Starts to kind of like be a crack in this relationship of the brothers here. Mm-hmm. That is going to be part of the plot later on. We also saw that Rollo was like hitting on Lagertha in episode 1.
Yeah.
And seemed to have some kind of history with her.
Yeah.
They're kind of hinting at that. They don't really explain. But Lagertha pretty much calls him a great warrior, but not a great man.
Yeah.
And we see Rollo's definitely has flaws. You still want to like him, but he's got flaws.
That's one thing, again, a common thread with the show is just everyone, there's no one you can get behind 100% of the time. Even Ragnar.
Not even Ragnar.
Who we like most of the time. And he's got some awesome moments. A later episode 8.
Oh, yeah.
The sacrifice episode where he tries to get Ethelstan, who, after you've watched the season, he starts to bond with his family. He tries to adopt the culture, and he tries to trick him into sacrificing himself. And he's just like, good thing, you're not getting sacrificed because of you're still lingering on your religion. And works out, doesn't it? And just like,
yeah, they still give him crap afterwards. I get one thing, maybe because they look at being sacrificed as a great honor. Maybe I could believe that, but like Ragnar's got to know this guy's a Christian by nature, right? Even though he's trying to accept these new gods, and he does. Like Ethelstan actually does convert, but he's like befriended him. Like in the previous episodes, they've really kind of grown a friendship. I love the first time Ragnar brings him to the farm. So when they get back from their first raid, Earl Haraldson, takes like their hoard. He like tries to take it all, but Ragnar's like, surely, like we built the ships. Like
these were our own ships. These weren't yours.
Yeah,
we did this.
Yeah, you got to give us a share. And he's like, oh, you can all take one thing. He's like, I want Ethelstan.
Everyone laughs at him.
Everyone laughs. Like, why do you want this slave? He's like, you want a slave? Okay.
Dummy.
Yeah. So he takes him, and when they get home, like, he tells his kids, like, you can touch him. So they're like just touching him. They're like, look at his head.
Why do you do that? They're just laughing at him.
They're just yeah. So I love that scene. But anyway, so he is a slave for them. He's like doing work for them, and then like he tells Ragnar he wants to be a free man. It seems like they're becoming friends, and it's cool. Their relationship grows, and right before they go to that sacrifice, that Uppsala, which we'll talk about in a second because that was a real place. Yeah, he's like, it's like kind of friendly, like, do you want to come with us?
Yeah, you feel like he's accepting him.
And Ethelstan's like, of course I want to go with you, Ragnar. And Ragnar kind of jokingly says, good, I was going to take you anyway. So, but it just felt like a loving kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
wow, man, they've become friends. Like, they really like each other. And then it's like this really weird episode 8, where like everyone keeps looking at, they make him eat mushrooms, Ethelstan, and they keep looking at him weird, like they all know something that he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's what I feel like this episode, it set up a few things, or that episode, it set up a few other things we'll talk about. But to me, that one, it just really relied on imagery, drama, and and sort of, I guess, that betrayal mythology and all that stuff. It was just there wasn't really anything driving the whole thing,
Yeah, I guess also trying to just show the history too.
Yeah,
because Uppsala was a place that people would make pilgrimages to, and they would have sacrifice ceremonies. Apparently, though, for the show, this episode is criticized for its historical inaccuracies. Though Uppsala is apparently not a very mountainous place, like it's depicted in the show, and apparently the architecture for the palace that they have, which does look pretty sweet in the show, I gotta say. Mm-hmm. Apparently, that's like a Saxon style church or something. So that was a big historical critique of that episode. So, but I think they were just trying to show that this is what they would have done to go make pilgrimages. But apparently they did have statue of Thor, Odin, and Frey, which they do show in the show in that temple. The temple was destroyed a while ago, probably back in 1793. But the temple was destroyed. Like, you can look up pictures of the place now, and it's looks like kind of a hilly field. So they were just trying to show that history of it. Also, Ragnar is not in a good headspace when we get to that part of the season.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because Lagertha had just lost what they thought it was going to be a son. I don't know if they actually knew. This was a real big problem for Ragnar because
sons are important for their culture.
Sons are important, and
carry on your name, your legacy.
And another thread that's supernatural in the show is the seer. Now they did have people who were seers back then, right? Mm-hmm. Who would try to prophesize things, but the seer in the show semes a little bit like
he seems like supernatural, he's like a fantasy, from some sort of fantasy show, whether it's Game of Thrones or something. He's got this deformed face, but he somehow could see. He's somehow physically healthy enough that he's able to move around and
I like him. I like
activities of daily living. Yeah.
It's not super realistic, but I do like the dude. I think
it adds to the culture and the mythology of the show. And again, though, it's just like is it supposed to be real or fiction?
Yeah, and he really likes his hand licked. It's the grossest thing, especially in the age of COVID. I don't know what. It's like the grossest thing, dude.
That's the last thing I would do now for advice.
Like, you don't have to pay him money, anything like that. He just wants you to lick the palm of his hand.
He just wants licks.
And they always do like a zoom in on it.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, like, does he wash his hands? Like, he's always up in that hut all day. Does he have Germex? Like, what's going on here? Like, I don't think so.
It's a tradition that the previous seer did, that he just kept going just to satisfy all them. But as soon as they leave, just pumps the hand sanitizer on.
Oh, he hates it. Yeah.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
But that was another part that we loved of the show. It helped world build it, and it was funny.
And he was always right, pretty much. Like, he always prophesized what was going to happen. And he didn't say Lagertha was going to give him sons, but he said Ragnar was going to have a lot of sons.
Yeah.
And so I think they assumed that Lagertha was going to be the one to give sons. So when she was pregnant, they just said it was going to be a boy. They even tell the daughter that, Gita, that it was going to be a boy because of the seer.
And he always tells them enough, and then he's like, nah, I'm not telling you anymore.
Yeah. The gods... The gods tell me what I can say. They allow me to see what they want me to see, and that's cool. And there really were people like that. And I think in Last Kingdom they do it pretty cool. How I think of Story and Uva, who is
Raven.
Ragnar's son, and Raven. It's like, they're seers, but they're also just super smart, and because people believe in what they say, I think they just kind of use it to their advantage and make things happen, or they have picked up on patterns and have been able to predict things that way.
Yeah.
It's more of rational explanations.
Yeah.
But in Vikings, it's more of like, this guy just literally can see the future. Like,
but way back up then, after they raid Linda's farm, the Vikings, not the Danes, they go back. King Harold takes all their stuff except one thing for all of them. But then we see, it does come in handy then for Ragnar, because he ends up using this Christian's knowledge of England for their next raid. But before that, there was another just great scene where Ragnar and Lagertha are just going at it.
So this would have been before the first raid, I think, because she
Without-
really wanted to go. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he took her on the second raid.
Yeah,
right?
he did take her on the second raid. But
on the first raid, like she really wanted to go, and he was like, "Nah, like you need to take care of the kids and stuff." And she gets so mad at him, and they just have a normal argument
where she beats the hell out of you with a shield.
Yeah, she starts just throwing things at him. Yeah, she just like hits him with a shield, and they just start literally fighting. And Ragnar tries to turn that into making out, and like
he keeps trying to turn it into sex.
he's like laughing while she's like physically trying to abuse him, like,
and she's hitting him hard too.
She's trying to freaking kill him. I mean,
she's beating the hell out of him.
She's so mad that she's not taking her. You know,
yeah,
it's supposed to be the quest of their lives. You know, it's going to be their story. And Bjorn like comes in like as if they're children.
What the heck, guys?
He's like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" I love young Bjorn.
Yeah,
he's great. He's always like getting drunk and like way too drunk and stuff. And,
yeah, once he gets his arm ring, he can just be drunk, and his parents are just like, that little 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But apparently he's 12, I guess, when he gets his arm ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like
that's better.
Still, it's better. I think the Viking drinking age was 11, so
okay, I'm glad he waited a year.
So they waited, yeah.
But before his second raid, though, he gets a lot of from Ethelstan about advice.
Learns the language too.
Yeah, and they're in Saxon's days off. Sunday, they have the day off, and it'll be easy to kill on those days.
Yeah, like all the other Vikings when they get there are like, "Why don't we attack now?" And he explains, you know, we wait till Sunday.
He's like, "Oh, what day is it?" And he's like, Saturday." He's like, "All right, okay, wait till tomorrow." And they're like, "But why?" And he's like, "No, nah, you'll see." You'll see.
You'll see tomorrow. And then they do. They go into this town, and they're all in church, good Christians, and it's just easy. Except this time, at first, Ragnar tells them, like,
don't put up a fight.
Don't put up a fight. We won't harm you if you don't put up a fight.
But some guys just in the back row, man, they just turn around and just start swinging. They get cut down instantly.
Yep.
And again, it was funny before they walk in there, and all the guys, all the people's swords and weapons and stuff are just outside, and like Ragnar and the rest of the I want to keep saying Danes, but they're
I want to say
Norsemen, I think.
So they refer to them. I read that they're not exactly positive, but if Ragnar Lothbrok exists, they think he would have been a Dane.
Okay, so I might just
read that earlier. Well,
a lot later in the show,
but later in the show, they refer to it as Norway. So
yeah,
I just think still back then, I think there was some ambiguity about what it was. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah. So
the Danes, they just think like look at this. This is ridiculous. All their weapons right here.
Yeah,
and it's just cake. It's just cake for them. And one of my favorite Floki scenes is Floki tasting the holy water, the communion water, or not?
Yeah.
The communion wine, rather. He's tasting that.
Yeah.
Spits it out because he's surprised about what it is or never tasted that before.
And everyone freaks out, like they shudder. Like, oh. And he like
notices it.
Oh. And so he's like putting on a show now. You see what they do. Floki's pretty good in season 1. He's pretty entertaining. Floki. Before that even happened, though, when they first landed, they were greeted though by King Ayla's sheriffs, I guess.
That's
right.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
And Ragnar there too is trying to not kill them all at first, even though like you can just see the tension of all of like his men just want to just shred these dudes apart. Ragnar's like, "We're traitors. Like, can we talk like with your king? Can all this?" And Floki goes up and takes rips off a guy's necklace, I guess.
Yeah, his cross.
Yeah, and
it's on,
and the fight's on. So way to go, Floki! And they do. They just freaking murder them all. It's like so easy for them.
Yeah. It's really cool seeing them. They're the badasses, man. They come into town, you don't mess with them.
Yeah, exactly.
But then And actually, before this too, I keep rewinding, but I just remember there was
We're
one of
going
my
all over the place. It's fine.
That's fine. It's one of my favorite scenes though. Is just when before and this was actually one, I guess, kind of a bro moment. I thought is before they go, King Haraldson sends Canute,
Earl Haraldson, yeah,
or Earl Haraldson sends Canute to go with them.
Yeah,
and Canute, who didn't go the first time and told on them, and you know, he caused some other problems. He goes, he's sent with them, and he's thinking everything's going to be okay, getting on the boat, and just everyone is just waiting there, giving him the dead eye, and Rollo just beats the hell out of him and says, you know, like, you're gonna have to trust us, and we're gonna have to trust you. And just, it was just a great scene, just a great one, because he thought everything was gonna be cool, and that's one of the times, like, I love Rollo. I love him when he's using his force of nature, strength to just, you know, put the right people in place.
Yes,
so that was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Rollo, there's times you love him, there's times you hate him, and this is definitely one of the times you like him. So they're
raided that town.
Northumbria again. Remember, this is Northumbria, and I think this is around this time we've met King Aela for the first time. I like the guy who plays King Aela. I think he's a pretty cool guy. He's not super likable, but he's authoritative.
Mm-hmm.
He does not like that these heathens are in Northumbria.
Yeah, and especially too after his men that were down there got killed.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, we'll send some more. And the Danes, you know, they're leaving after raiding that church. That's a super easy win for them there.
This is when we went nuts, dude. This is when we went nuts, because guess what?
What?
Shield wall, baby. Shield wall! It was a quick, like, shield wall! Like a quick one, because, you know, it was like an instinctive one for Ragnar.
Yeah.
Because they were getting ready to go, and Ragnar's like, shield wall! Quick, you know? Mm-hmm. There's no time for a long, drawn-out, badass shield wall, and get hit with an arrow in the chest, you know?
This was great after coming out of the Last Kingdom, and
where shield wall is emphasized.
Yeah, when are we gonna get it? When are we gonna see it? And we hear it. And their first one is a pretty good cover up. I thought they covered up from the arrows.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it a 7 to 8 out of 10, maybe.
Shield wall, sure.
I mean, it protected them.
Yeah, when I look at it again, it doesn't have as many holes as some of the other ones they had.
Yes. I thought that the first one where they blocked the arrows was pretty solid.
It's pretty good.
And again, though, you know, you see these, they're clearly outnumbered, but they just roll up to the beach like they don't give a damn. You know, there's all these guys. And after the arrow onslaught, the guys are just trying to attack them, and they're just holding their ground. It's so good. This
is a great battle, because you got things like in the shield wall, these guys they're up against it, and like Ragnar will pull someone through, and they'll like let him through, and then they'll have like a guy with a bow and arrow shoot him while the shield wall's open, or they'll have like Floki in the back and Legatha, they're the finishers, so like maybe they'll throw somebody over the wall, and like they'll just get slaughtered by them in the back. It's just really cool formation, and
very efficient
that they got going. And they're outnumbered. I would say they're definitely outnumbered here.
Yeah.
On their way out.
Yeah.
And they're not even phased. They're just trying to get to their boat. They just want to go home.
Oh man, I love that. I loved how they did that. They made them feel like these are the bad boys. You know, you don't mess with these people.
Oh yeah.
They make fairly easy work of those guys. I think maybe 1 or 2 of their people get injured or something. Maybe. Yeah. But man, they wreck it, man. It was great.
It was awesome. Yeah, that was a great battle. I think that's one of the battles that I really loved. One of the first battles I really loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the show.
That's why I love about, you know, the Viking shows we watch. I love seeing the Vikings roll into town and just make quick work of the Saxons, you know. And
I don't know if I love when they just go and kill innocent priests.
I don't like.
I know that's what really happened in history, but it's like it's hard to like, you know. Woo! But when it's like a battle, you know,
then it seems fair.
But I kind of like how Ragnar, even when they slaughter the priest, he didn't order them to slaughter the priests.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Leif kind of looked a little disappointed that everybody was just killing these men that weren't fighting back.
Yeah.
It seemed like they didn't see a lot of honor in it.
Yeah, I don't think Eric took part in that either.
Eric too. Yeah.
Big blonde dude. I don't think he did.
Yeah, with the big beard. Yeah.
Oh, great beard.
That was a great beard. He was cool, man. I liked him.
Oh, man, me too.
I wish he didn't die so soon.
I know, and it's a shame, but they make it. Well, anyway, another thing that happens too. Canute, the guy who was sent from Haraldson, was raping a Saxon woman, and then Lagertha comes in and says, "No, don't, bad," and he's like, "You too," and she's not having that. She's like, "I'm not having a me too. Like, you're done for, bro," and just kills him. So
that's Lagertha. By the way, in episode 1, we found out just how badass Lagertha was when two guys like came into the home, and she like told the daughter to go, just go get the goats and stuff, and I will take care of them real quick. And she she handles them like swiftly.
It's probably like the hotter you are back then, the better you had to be at fighting. You know what I mean? Because like all the nasty dudes are gonna want to come after you.
Yeah, and she is awesome. I love Lagertha.
Oh yeah, she's cool.
Oh my god. So she kills him pretty easily.
So when they leave and they head back home, it sets up some more drama. Because...
and Ragnar's like, "Where's Canute?" And she's like, "I killed him. You tried to rape me." And he's like, "Did anybody else see it?" Great. So basically, we're screwed now. Earl Haraldson's man came, I guess his half brother. Yeah. Apparently, and
that was another thing that just came out of nowhere. He's like, at the next thing,
my half brother.
The next trial they had, he's like, "So that was my half brother," and everyone's like, "No one knew that, Errol."
Well, I would let it happen if I knew that.
Oh,
but I'm thinking like with Canute, it's like with Canute, it's like, and Lagertha comes in like, and she's like, "No, don't rape this woman." Canute's gotta be thinking like, "We're Vikings. This is a raid, dude. This is a raid.
This is on the checklist of things we have to do."
No,
and that
apparently I just read in history like there's not a lot of accounts of like written down of them actually raping. I mean, they're pretty sure that happened, but they think it's just because like a lot of the people who documented this were priests and monks, and that they probably weren't the ones that they would want to rape, and they also might have like not put it in because of maybe more religious reasons too.
Yeah, it was probably too crass for them, so they'd probably want to censor that.
But no, it was just kind of an interesting thing with Lagertha there.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's right. We're in a raid
next time.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, so that was interesting, and then the whole trial thing afterward, and it was kind of cool with Rollo, this character who we've seen some shadiness from. Mm-hmm. Earl Haraldsson like goes up to him and is like, "Hey, my daughter's gonna get married. I need to pick who she's gonna marry and stuff, and I think you'd be pretty good. I need you to go ahead and condemn your brother, and we can make this work." And you think Rollo might do that because you've seen the jealousy. Yes. You've seen the jealousy kind of growing from Rollo. Mm-hmm. Yet when it comes to it, and it seems like Ragnar took the fall for Lagertha. He's like, "I did it. I killed him." Mm-hmm. Later, Lagertha goes on and says that she did it and tells the truth. And then Rollo steps in and actually tells the truth, even though he wasn't really a witness. He tells exactly what happened.
But it turns out he did it for Lagertha, though. And again,
exactly.
Like, why didn't you do this for your brother? Like, come on, man.
Did it for Lagertha.
And it's just Rollo. You love him when he's just killing Saxons and sticking up for the crew. And then something like that happens. Like, why are you being a douche? But I imagine when they were kids, Ragnar was always the one figuring things out quicker, and
he's the one getting all the credit for like this raid. Yeah, and he's jealous, and that's one thing Earl Haraldsson tried to bribe him with was like, you'll get like your name, you'll be somebody.
Yeah,
and that means a lot to Rollo.
Yeah, he's like, Ragnar's always first among equals, though.
They're clearly not equals. Ragnar's clearly in charge.
And Rollo just doesn't have that curiosity in that. He has the ambition, but he doesn't have that curiosity and the willingness to, make some sacrifices to get his career going, Rollo he takes the next immediate job, That then causes a big rift with Harold, though. And Haraldsson, sorry. Yeah. Earl, not King. Earl Haraldsson. And so he sends some guys to kill them partying that night.
Oh, yeah.
He just got embarrassed. And my favorite dude, Eric, is out there taking a leak, and he gets killed. And I'm just
Not
like,
cool. Not cool.
And how could they have slit his throat with that protective beard? Is what I
know. That thing had to be thick as chainmail. I mean, come on.
Thicker than chainmail, man. Thicker.
It's like knee thrill.
Yeah.
You know?
The troll couldn't pierce that.
Not the best way to go.
Nah.
For Eric, a guy who was pretty awesome. I mean, it was in his house, I think, that they met.
I loved him.
He was cool.
Ragnar and the rest of them just with their fists try and make it out of there. And they do, most of them escape and stuff, but now they know that some trouble is coming. And, we see the lake later, Ragnar's up on a hill and he's just sort of mentally preparing himself.
Ethelstan, I think, says like he's preparing for something.
Yeah. And it's like the next episode, Ethelstan's like, what have you been doing? You made yourself very strong. And it's like, how did he make himself strong, though, from sitting up on the hill? Like, they should have at least showed, like, some montage of him just, like, doing push-ups and...
Rocky montage.
Some sword fighting against, like, a tree or something. But it was
runs
just...
up a mountain and then does, like, the jumps.
Yeah. But he was just sitting on the hill, just looking out, staring. He's like, you made yourself very strong. And I'm like, he probably did, but, like, we didn't see that. And it leads to awesome. Like the best scene.
Oh my God.
The best scene
might be my favorite scene of season 1.
This is honestly one of my favorite scenes from the whole show. Like
I mean, you're already getting pumped because Earl Haraldson is suiting up. Yeah. Throws a sword on. He's getting into the action. And he's like about to finish this business with Ragnar Lothbrok once and for all. So all of a sudden, Ragnar's home gets ambushed by Earl Haraldson and his men.
Yeah. Ragnar's out hunting though.
And he hears it, I think.
Yeah,
or he's on his way back, and
he hears some of the farm workers screaming because they're getting killed.
And so he makes his way back, and he kind of sneaks in, sort of, yet so badass.
He just like runs down and just uses
running shot, like kills a dude running with a bow and arrow, which has got to be hard to do.
Yeah.
It just looks so sleek too. Like Travis Fimmel, like looks so sleek.
I love Travis Fimmel. He looks so athletic here. There's sometimes you see actors and they do something and you're like, that looks so bad. You know, what they're trying to have him do, like, or it's so obvious, like a stunt double that they shoot from behind. So they like him moving was so athletic through the woods on the
sprinting with a bow and arrow, gets an axe throw, like pans back. And then he just has an awesome fight. And it's not perfect. He gets slashed in the leg.
Yeah. That's what I love about it. It's like he cuts down, what's it, like 4 to 5 guys, but he uses an axe throw. Then once he goes into fighting head on, he gets injured.
Yeah. You know? But he keeps pushing forward. And you think he finally got to his house. And right as he's going through the doorway, he gets an arrow like through the shoulder, dude. Like right here.
Sven.
Sven. Yeah, I guess.
Sven? He shot him. That guy. And
I think it's pronounced Sven. And he's just like,
he walks away. He does
I think he's walking to go get closer, but I think he's like going to get people, but
he does the old Green Knight, the old shoot once and walk away. But he actually had a shot. He had a shot later.
He hit it, yeah. But I think the big thing, he was going to tell Earl Haraldson where he was. He's in the house. And they come up, and Ragnar's in the house with Ethelstan, his kids, and Legatha, and he like sneaks him a back door that like goes, or a secret door that goes through the floor, to a boat. Yeah. And they're able to like escape and run and get in the boat, and it's pretty cool. Ethelstan helps like push the boat out, and they like all lay down in the boat. Meanwhile, they call Ragnar out, and he walks out like he's got an arrow through the shoulder. He's been slashed in the leg. He is not looking good, and he gets on his knees to Earl Haraldson. Earl Haraldson's about to, they're kind of talking, do him in, and Ragnar like says something. What does he say? Like to Odin, like
he prays for Odin for the strength to do something. And he's like, Father. And he says it though because he says he's the son of Odin. Everyone says, all father when they're talking about Odin, but he said it like dad, and everyone just kind of like, this guy's stupid.
Yeah.
And he just takes off then and just knocks the guy off the horse and just giddies up away.
Dude, it was awesome.
Such a good scene. And then he jumps off that hill though that he was like meditating or whatever on, and then they get him onto the boat.
Like he doesn't jump off, he like falls off because he's like passing out, like loss of blood. And Yeah, and Ethelstan jumps in to save him. I thought it was kind of a cool thing that Ethelstan did.
Again, Ethelstan coming in clutch here. I
The
love him.
man. He's the man. And then they go to Floki's to like hide.
Yeah.
Because Floki lives like kind of in the wilderness, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's out away from everyone.
Yeah.
And this is, they start patching him up, and you see Haraldson's trying to figure out where Ragnar is. He ends up torturing Rollo. You don't see it, but he like takes a knife to his face. Rollo just ends up like with some scars. I thought like he was like cutting.
I thought they were gonna Joker him.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna Joker him, and you just see blood pouring off the table. That's one thing with this show. It doesn't know sometimes. I know. It wants to be like an HBO or like a Netflix level. Like with the
sex and gore,
the sex and the gore.
But it's History Channel.
It's History Channel. You can't do that stuff. You got to back off a little bit. But it is still a very gory show. I think it gets gory later on in the seasons though too. Mm-hmm. And then they try so hard with the sex too to get around their limitations.
Dude.
This season isn't as noticeable. I was paying attention.
Yeah.
But later on the seasons they just have like their pants on and they're doing it. Like they just slide it down just enough.
Just enough. Yeah, we always used to joke about that. But so we got to back it up because there's two things I just thought of that we need to talk about.
Okay.
The first is before they go on they sail off on the first one, they have a little ritual before they go.
Oh my God. How do we not talk about this?
With a bowl of water. And Floki's the first. He's the shipbuilder, right? So he gets the water, like rubs it on his face, and he just like throws 2 snot rockets into it. And then it goes to Ragnar. Oh, Floki does one of these too. Like, Floki does all kinds of weird things, and it's great. And Ragnar's next, right after Floki just did 2 snot rockets into it. And Ragnar's just like, yeah, get some of this in my mouth. Swish this around my mouth a little bit. Spit it out back into the bucket. For the next guy. How would you like to be the last guy to get it?
I was just gonna say,
what does
would you rather be
like
the second guy and you
I'd way rather be the second guy
or the last guy. Okay,
way rather be the second guy because then it's just a chance of just a couple boogers versus
like at least
the other 30 guys.
For sure. Like you can probably at least see where the boogers are and stuff. Like you're the second guy, you probably can't really see them.
You're the last guy, dude. There's not one bit of that water that hasn't been in someone's mouth or their boogers haven't contaminated it. All right, they're just like swishing it.
Oh my God!
I
remember we would do this before every exam. We would
for every exam in our apartment. We'd get a bowl and
I was watching though. I was trying to see. I was like, oh, they have to cut right, and Gustav Skarsgård, he blows into it. Yeah. He does all that stuff, and they take the bowl and they have after he did all that nasty in it. And they take it over to Travis Fimmel Ragnar, and there's no cut. And I'm just like, what?
There's no cut?
But then they cut, like as soon as he picks it up. And I was just like, is he gonna reach into it right now? Because like it was still going, and I was trying to pay attention. Like, how did they do this? But it does cut, and it's like so they obviously they just went splash, fill up, but like
some dude just like brushes his teeth, spits back into the bucket. I like to have a fresh breath when I go out on a raid.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm clean. After I got all the boogers on me.
Oh, it's so gross. Yeah, that's like the first thing he like wipes his face in. And the other thing is when they come back with Ethelstan like the first time when Lagertha and Ragnar, reunited and
feels so good.
Yeah.
Start shagging. They do the horizontal tango.
Yeah, and Ethelstan's just trying to read the Bible. He's just trying to figure out what's going on with his life right now. And Ragnar and Lagertha literally just come over and like, hey, come join us. And Lagertha's looking good. And
she just shows like a little bit of leg. She's like, oh, look at this leg. You like this leg? And Ragnar just comes over and is like, look at it.
Don't you want to? And you could tell Ethelstan does. Like the human in him does. But he is like a devout Christian at this point. Yeah. And, it would be a sin.
He's bad.
So he doesn't. And they're just like, okay, weirdo.
You weirdo? So that brings us back then to after Ragnar, he's getting patched up at Floki's. What's his name? The other blonde guy.
Torsten.
Torsten, that's it. Torsten.
He comes and he tells them.
Torsten tells him the news that Rollo's getting tortured, and then he looks at Helga, Floki's woman.
Oh, yeah.
And then Floki's like, don't look at my woman. She's married. But then like 5 minutes later, he's like, hey, come on, Torsten. Come here. Like, you're going to want to be here. And then there's Helga laying in bed like, come here, Torsten. And then they do the horizontal tango while like Ragnar's just like laying there, like trying to heal his shoulder and leg.
Yeah.
And again, like that brings us all back to Haraldson tricking his number 2 guy into with his wife. I mean, their whole community is shagging all the time. They shag the slaves. They shag each other's wives. They are very promiscuous. And then why would this guy not think he couldn't get away with it? You know? Why?
Oh my God.
Why?
It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. Yeah. It's funny too when like Torsten's like looking at her. Helga's just really giving him those eyes. By the way, Helga looks too much like Torvi, who comes in later on. Like the actresses to me just like look very similar. Yeah. And especially with their makeup on and stuff, like I don't know. So yeah, this really makes Ragnar want to go and avenge his brother.
There's a lot of tension between them now.
It's just like the time has come, you know.
Yeah.
So he sends Floki. I think it's the end of the episode. He tells Floki to go and tell Earl Haraldson, like, I challenge him to a combat, and if he, you know, the shame will be brought upon him if he denies.
Mm-hmm.
So Floki goes, and Floki tells him this, and like everyone laughs at Floki, I think.
Yeah.
And Floki laughs too. I love Floki in the first season.
At first he says, you know, no, I won't. I won't do this. The Earl Haraldson says no. He's like, he's just a criminal. Why would I accept that? He's not an equal.
Yeah.
But then like later on he changes his mind because he knows that like he would be a coward.
Exactly.
And he wouldn't get that Valhalla treatment, you know? You want that Valhalla treatment. Finally, these two guys meeting up, and they don't say they make the square, but
they make the square. They make the square. But they had also been hinting about Earl Haraldson, too, a little bit about his past. And so they kind of been throwing these in about how his sons were murdered and disgraced. Like they were killed, their heads were chopped off and put. So they're like sniffing their butts. That's the ultimate disgrace, you know? Ugh. And so Earl Haraldson wasn't happy about that. But I think that kind of built into who his character became, this kind of evil dude.
Yeah.
And
they never really hit on that, though. They explain it, but they never, you know, he says, if I ever get the guys who did that, you know, I'd kill them. But you never figure out who that is. And that's another thing, too, that the show does a lot. It has these plot points that it feels like it sets up and abandons.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Completely abandons.
It does happen.
You know, later on in the seasons, we'll talk about that. But that, to me, it was cool. And like you said, it felt like it went into his character, but it was never really hit on. And it really never was.
To me, it made him think he was this broken dude. So obviously he became Earl somehow.
Yeah.
And the night before the battle, he talks about how he actually has the utmost respect for Ragnar.
Mm-hmm.
To Siggy. Siggy's like, you need to come inside, get your rest. You know, you don't want to fight, you know, all tired and stuff. And yeah, so he tells her all this stuff about how Ragnar is like who he used to be.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives us a different look at who Earl Haraldson might have been 20 years before. Like, who was he?
Yeah.
Was he the leader of his men? Who was he well respected by everyone and a good man back then? And then I do see the death of his sons and the way they were killed as something that really broke his spirit. You know? And he might have been a guy at the time who was like doing things like he's always trying to play it safe.
Yeah.
I think he's scared of losing his power, but perhaps he was a guy when he was younger who was like Ragnar, who was ambitious and wanted to do new things, but he changed.
Yeah.
So that gives a kind of an interesting look at who he was. And I like how when they fight, it's a pretty good fight, one-on-one battle.
Yeah. And I think one of the most Odin-worthy moments from this season, or Thor-worthy or Viking, you know, to me, when Haraldson gets his first shield, they both have shields.
You get two. That's the rules.
They tell them, all right, you know the rules, everyone. You get 2 shields. You break the first one, you get a second one, and that's it. Errol Haraldson immediately throws out the first shield, meaning I'm only fighting with 1 shield this whole fight. And I was just like, that's pretty badass. That's
super badass.
That's a Valhalla worthy moment right there for you.
Yeah. And Ragnar is like, you're dumb. I'm going to keep both my shields. No, he also gives off his shield as,
Yeah, but he follows
level
after
playing
him.
fields. He follows after him.
Haraldson said it first, which I was like, there's some...
You gained some respect for that.
You gained some respect for that.
Okay, cool. And he actually fights decently. You can see he's old, but he probably was quite the warrior,
Mm-hmm.
And Ragnar
kills him.
And I just really like this death because when he dies, you kind of look at him a little bit differently because he's actually happy he's going to his sons. There's you can see on his face a kind of a different expression than we've seen the entire show, where he's actually excited in a way to go and be with his sons, to feast with his sons. And Ragnar finishes the job by cutting his wrist. I thought he was going to give him his weapon.
Yeah, that's something from the Last Kingdom that we get to see. Is they hand him the weapon before they die, or
the axe or the sword
to make sure they get in Valhalla.
Yeah,
they don't really do that here. I guess if you just die in an honorable way, at least in the Vikings world of the show Vikings, you're good for Valhalla. And Sven,
but I guess that was an offer of mercy, apparently, to cut his wrist.
Oh yeah,
too. I guess so.
I would rather.
And I bet apparently that allows him to go to Valhalla.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's a different way.
Huh.
Yeah, and then
Sven's what happens? Kill him.
This is great. And Rollo just takes an axe and it's just thud. He just walks up to him casually, just slams it into his chest.
And then Haraldson's daughter too is like, I guess we can kill whoever we want now, and kills
her husband. Oh yeah.
Her new husband, who's this disgusting pickle-eating dude. She's been married.
Yeah. So because Rollo had kind of sided with Ragnar instead of being able to marry the Earl's daughter, he had chosen this really bad-smelling old
guy.
Fat guy who's missing teeth and there's a young, beautiful daughter, didn't want to marry him and stuff. But he had land and things to offer Kattegat and stuff, so...
She just takes a chance. She's like, I guess we can kill whoever we want now. Whack!
Yeah, there was just a few minutes where they had rules before, with murder and stuff, where, just a couple minutes after the combat, anything goes. Purge!
Next 10 minutes is purge!
They just purged a couple people.
There's probably people in the back too that was just and you stole my one watch. Whack.
Yeah. Yeah, but Siggy's the one
first says
Earl Ragnar. Yeah. Which is interesting. Then when they go do his funeral service with the pyre and sending him off.
Which is how I want to go, by the way.
That's how I want to go too.
I'm gonna write that in a will, and I know my family is gonna fight it. I know they're gonna fight it. But that's what I want.
That's what I want too.
You don't have to pay for an expensive casket or anything. Literally just get a boat, put me on there, put my sword on there if I have a sword.
Sacrifice one of the slaves.
Put my podcast, my microphone on me.
In your and I'll get a bow and arrow on fire, and I'm taking you out when you're 60 years old.
I know.
I promised you that. Even if you change your mind, I promised you.
It's the only way I can get into Valhalla.
I promised you that.
Yeah.
If you're still kicking 60.
I hope not.
You asked me to do it, and this is going to be permanent record. All right?
Yeah.
So they do the interesting thread with a slave girl who offered herself to accompany the Earl.
Mm-hmm.
And she's super drunk and
she's just getting chocolatey wasted.
Yeah.
Just
they show Ethelstan and stuff. And
yeah, and it's really cool. This is one reason too. I think Ethelstan's a good part of the show is because they allow them to explain their culture to someone like us who probably doesn't know what they're doing and,
Exactly.
and looks at it from our today's morals, and we go, why are you doing that? And they go to him, well,
Yeah.
they're doing this, this is an honorable thing she wants to do. She wants to honor him. She does a whole house of guys, because all those guys want to say hi to King Haraldson. Say hi to him for me.
Yeah.
Send him my love.
That's just honor.
But like it is cool, for him. It lets us get that without it feeling forced.
Exactly.
But then there's this huge woman, and again, I can't tell when I watch it. I'm like, is this a girl from town dressed as this figure that resembles Thor, who's like participating in the ritual?
Sort of like one of Santa's helpers or something.
Yeah, Santa's helpers. It's not the real Thor. It's one of the Santa's helpers.
The Angel of Death.
Yeah, it's the Angel of Death.
Yeah.
Or is it the Angel of Death? Is it the actual Angel of Death there? You know what I mean? Like,
I couldn't tell.
I can't tell because, like, after you watch like the rest of the show, like I said, Odin is a character that appears at one point. So it's like, who is this a real person? Because I don't know if we see her again.
I don't think we do. I don't remember seeing her again.
And but it was cool, and it was really cool funeral, and
it was
Siggy
really cool.
wanted to light the fire, but Ragnar was like, nope.
Floki does one of these and jumps. Because this is all like up his alley. Like he loves this stuff. It's like, again, like later on in the sacrifice episode when they find that Ethelstan still has Christianity in his heart and would just upset the gods if he was sacrificed. You guys need to pick one of you, or they're going to be really angry. You need to volunteer to be sacrificed. And Floki's sitting there like, well, this is kind of my shit. So he like starts to get up and Helga it's like, no, not you. But Floki's just like, this is me. This is like what I like.
Sounds like the thing I do.
This is my thing. Yeah, but so he loves all that, the god stuff, and
it's a cool, and it's really, really respectful on Ragnar's end. Now these are
to do that. One thing that I thought was funny was that Siggy asked to light the pyre,
and he was like, "No."
That was kind of a dick move by Ragnar.
Yeah, and that's, again, sometimes he'll do things like that, and you're like, "Well, why?" You know,
like
she never really did anything to wrong him, and she tried to warn Rollo to get out of town, and she was the one who first said, "All hail Earl Ragnar," But again,
her and Rollo have a thing too.
Yeah. It might just be part of their culture though, because they do later on say, I think Bjorn's like asking, like, he tried to kill my father. Why are we honoring her? We should throw her out of town. That's the way it's done. Yeah. Then after that, it's, Lagatha has the miscarriage, and that's when they are back on another raid. And
didn't they go? 7. Yeah. So she hadn't had the miscarriage yet, right?
Yeah, not yet.
You're right.
It's when they're on a raid. But so anyway, after this, Ragnar, he gets the all clear to do whatever he wants because he's in charge. So he goes back to raiding, and this time he takes more guys. And they actually don't raid at first. They actually meet King Alar. And I love this episode. This is probably my favorite episode from the whole season. I mean, I love the Ragnar fight, for his house and then versus the Earl. But this one, to me, start to finish, had all the things that I want from a show with Vikings and Saxons in it. We have them coming into the hall and just behaving like a bunch of belligerent idiots.
Yeah.
And then
so I mean, first raiding. What happens is like they establish themselves and they go and they attack the Saxon camp, who is King Aela's brother Ethelwulf is there. And they attack the camp at night while they're sleeping, and it's just like a nice little fun little attack on these guys, unexpected, and Ethelwulf is like praying for like the strength to go and battle them, and as he's like leaving, Floki cuts his tent and it collapses on him. It's kind of funny. And Floki's just like, it just shows Floki going, whoo! And like,
that was so hilarious. I mean, this guy, who, when they first showed him too, and King Aela, he's like, my brother's going to come in, and he's like telling the other guys, he's like, this is how we're going to mess him up. This is what we need to do. Like, and I'm like, this guy, even when I was rewatching it, I was like, this guy's going to get it done. But then
the actor seems super authoritative.
he had a cool accent, and then
They're talking. King Ael and him are talking, and they're just like, bro, and they just like clap up, and they just go, and they
but then like they're all asleep, and the Danes just come in and just like setting fire to things. They're not waking it. They're not even like killing people yet. They're just getting ready for the chaos. They're just going. I love that. And then
so they take him captive.
Yeah, they take him captive.
And then they're making camp. They take him captive, and then they go, and he wants to talk to King Aelin.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how like he just has him captive, and he's got his arm around him, like, and they're just talking to him.
Yeah,
and
Travis Fimmel, how he plays the comedic side, isn't too over the top.
God,
and it's not too underdone where it's not funny. It's this funny, humorous, like lethal thing that he does.
Exactly.
He's a great Dane.
He's a great Dane, and one of the best things he does is when he goes and encounters the enemy, and they ask him a bunch of questions, and he doesn't say anything, and he just stares at him, and the enemy is just like,
yeah,
and it's great.
Yeah, the first time he meets some of Ayla's men, they come up and like, oh, what do you want? They're like, oh, we can do this or whatever, and he has the brother there, and he's just
they rode up to the gates,
rides away,
and they just ride away. They don't say anything. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Eventually, though, when they do like come into parlay. It's hilarious. All the Danes at the table. I love too. They've showed language throughout the season too, but I really like how they showed it here. It's so organic how they show that they're two different people. The Danes and the Saxons are speaking different languages.
They can't understand each other except like Ragnar has.
They'll cut to the Saxons. They'll be speaking the Old English that even we can't understand, and then they'll cut to the Danes, and they'll be speaking their own language, but then like Ragnar was speaking English, and then like it cuts back and forth in such a way that it feels natural, and you're never lost as to like why they can't understand each other and who is speaking what language.
Well said. I think they do that really well, and I don't think that's an easy thing to do.
No,
because you could get very confused very quickly. Like, wait a minute, they were just speaking, in their Danish tongue or whatever it was, their Scandinavian language, and now they're speaking English. Yeah, super well done. I think it gives the viewer a lot of credit to kind of figure that out, and they do a really good job.
Yeah, they trust your intelligence to be able to figure out what's going on.
They do a really good job of that. They meet the first time, and when they go into the town, they finally head into the town. Ragnar has like the coolest way to get off of a horse. Did you see this?
No, I don't remember. What do you do?
I think it's in this one. Just the way he just like turns and just like kind of just slides off like a slide. Did you see that?
No, I remember what you said. Yeah, I remember.
It's just so cool. But he's just like staring everybody down, all the townspeople. God, he looks so cool.
Oh yeah, and like all the Danes feel like they're like several inches taller than all the other people around them too.
Yeah,
they're just everyone's just looking at them like they're bad men, and you're just like, this is way
they're of the devil. Like, it's cool. It's cool.
They go in and they're eating dinner and they're just acting belligerent. Like they're all trying to pray, and the Danes are just digging in with their hands and laughing and just
making fun of the music
over their heads.
Yeah. Making fun of music and stuff. Like, what is this? And they're all laughing, and it's cool, man. I mean, I like that because I like how they show like how weird the other culture is to each of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then they're going through their terms, and Ragnar says the price is 2,000
pounds.
2,000 pounds of silver and gold.
Silver. Yeah, silver and gold. We can only pay that if one of you gets baptized.
Yep.
And they have to translate what it means, and Rilla's like, I'll do it. That sounds funny to me. I'll do that stuff. So then they go to him getting baptized, and just like
I love that scene. Like, he just like no idea what this priest is doing to him. Like, it's like reaching for his forehead, and he's just like leaning back, and then the priest like pushes him under the water, and he comes up like as if he was attacked. And Ragnar's like doing his best. I can see like to honor the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Like he even gets on a knee. He's even like trying to like source like what behavior source, like what the others are doing. It's kind of cool because it shows his curiosity again. It shows that
he's open-minded to learning these new things and participating in it.
Yeah. But
even though none of them believe in it.
Yeah. And that's what creates the interesting thread is Floki has a huge problem with Rollo even doing it. Because Floki sees it as like, even if you didn't believe it, you're going to anger the gods by even participating in their ceremony.
Yeah. And he's very religious, Floki.
He's so religious. He's so hardcore with the gods. And so Rollo is just like, dude, I don't really believe in that. They just put me in water as a joke, dude. Like, dude, relax. But Floki's kind of crazy. And this is kind of the first hints of Floki being kind of a douchebag.
Yeah, really annoying about the religion kind of stuff. Annoying.
Like he's like, dude, I did it so we could all get 2,000 pounds of gold and silver, and we won. Like we got what we wanted. And then we get an awesome scene. Oh, so the Saxons come down and they bring like a cart of stuff, and then they run away. Ragnar kind of is suspicious of this. He sends a few guys out, not himself and not his best men, to investigate. And as they're investigating the cart, that's when the charge of Saxons comes to attack, because King Aela does not intend on giving them their 2,000 pounds of gold and silver. They're charging, and Ragnar's just standing there waiting. And at like the last moment, he does this. He like pull it up, and they pull up the spiked gate. And what it does is it causes some of them to like stop their horses so fast that they go tumbling over and land on the spikes and die. And like otherwise, it causes everybody else to like panic and like get scattered.
Yeah, and some of the horses get hit by it too, and
horses get hit by it, and so it probably only killed a few people.
Yeah,
but it caused the rest of them kind of to be chaotic and scattered. And in that moment, they drop the gate and they take advantage of that chaos. And so now you don't have this like formation coming at you. Now you just have all these like Saxons going every which way that they can just kind of go and charge.
Yeah, and
they do.
That's great. It's a great battle too. The scenes from it, and Rollo too. I mean, before this too, as soon as the guy started charging down the hill, the Saxons, I think there was just some tension between Floki and Rollo, and you just see like all the men just grabbing their stuff in slow mo. It's so cool. Mm-hmm. And then Tostig too, the old man when Ragnar first became Earl. It was a great like scene. Again bringing up like their warrior culture. This old man who had never died in battle. All his friends are dead. They either died in battle or died some other honorable death. He wants to get to Valhalla, so he basically went on this mission with the intention of, I'm okay with dying. But he's in this battle, and he's doing super well, and like he already made it out of another battle. Like, this guy's fine. Eventually, he does get killed, though.
Does he get killed in this one?
Yeah,
in this battle?
Yeah, he gets killed here by...
Oh, which battle was it he didn't get killed and he was upset about it? After they captured... Yeah.
The brother, yeah. The one
they captured him
at night.
That's a hilarious moment because he's just like... Ragnar goes up to him and he's just looking sad and he's like, I didn't die. I didn't die in battle.
I'm too good.
Ragnar's like, I'm sorry, dude. Like...
And he does well in this battle, too. The guy gets him from behind. Like, no one beat him from the front.
And Ragnar goes to him, like this is what the guy wanted. It's not a big important thing to the storyline, but it just shows, it kind of emphasizes like their belief in dying in battle, like how honorable that was. And
it's really good just for the culture and the mythology of their way of life.
If you die in Norse mythology, if you die an honorable death, for example, in battle, in combat, you get to go and feast in Valhalla, which is a hall in Asgard where you get to feast
during the day.
And then you get to fight during the day, and then at night you get to go feast and hump, and it's just great. And that's like the desire for all of them. And if you die in a non-honorable death, you go to Niflheim, where hell reigns.
Yeah,
and it's cold and it's not fun, not a fun place. It sounds like.
Don't want to go there.
So that's what this guy was afraid of too. He was afraid of dying and not honorable
dying as
death.
An old man. Like, there's no honor in that. You have to die in battle or die some other honorable death.
Yeah.
So it was cool that he got to do that and get to see like why it was important to them. And
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
And again, the Danes wreck these people.
Oh my God.
Rollo is just like going all out. He's just like trying to make a point to Floki. Like, I got more Christians than you did. Like, do you still believe that the gods are angry with me? Sort of thing. And I was kind of
Floki does a little like, it was pretty sweet.
I was like, all right, Floki, you see, you're being a dummy. You're being a dummy about this.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he just took one for the team for you guys. So like, Floki, you didn't have to get baptized yourself. Like,
I know.
I know.
So because the Saxons, though, they didn't have the gold, they betrayed the Danes. They end up cutting off the brother's head and sending it back to the king. And the next thing, you just see them leaving on boats with loaded up with treasure, just like.
Yeah, he like waves at him. And Ayla says, he pretty much vows to kill Ragnar Lothbrok.
Yeah.
As he's sailing away. Because he was just humiliated by him.
Yeah. And Ragnar doesn't die this season, but I guess we had found somewhere that originally that they had planned on Ayla killing Ragnar in the first season, but because of how popular Travis Fimmel was and Ragnar the character was with the fan base and how recognizable he was with the brand of the show, they just decided to keep him on because of that. And I'm so glad they did. I'm so glad.
I wish they didn't get. Well, it was just never mind.
Yeah, but I'm glad they set up that thread though, because it puts this more. Tension between the two characters, and
dude,
and it is cool.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And so
easily my favorite episode from the season. Easy.
Vikings are 3-0 on the season. Vikings are 3-0, and they head back. And
this is
really
where
awesome.
You found out she had a miscarriage.
Yeah, and so she had a miscarriage during that time, and
then they go. The whole sacrifice episode
and the
happens.
Sacrificed episode, yep.
And that
Which is not my favorite.
Yeah, it was cool for like the culture, and I think that's one thing that they were trying to do. It was just show the sacrifice end of their religion, because I think it's easy for us in our morals and values today to like think, oh, the Vikings, this is what they looked like, and they were cool, sexy, axe-wielding blonde people, but they also did just a bunch of barbaric, crazy things back then, So I thought it was kind of cool on that end to see that, but it also, to me, the whole episode just kind of dragged on.
I guess I didn't like the Ethelstan stuff. And
I didn't like the Ethelstan at all.
And I didn't like how Leif had to die, because he was awesome. He was like one of the best bros, I feel like. He was an awesome bro.
Yeah, he was.
He was a great warrior, a great fighter. Yeah, it was kind of disappointing that he chose to go. I know it was like an emotional thing, and he was doing an honorable thing in his head.
Yeah.
But it's just like, then they're all mad at Ethelstan for like, oh, this is your fault that he has to die, because
Ragnar was like, I guess you're lucky, aren't you? Huh? And
I know, that kind of,
he was like trying to make it seem like Ethelstan was being the jerk, but like I was like, you're the jerk because you didn't tell him any of this. Like at the very least, if you think this is a great honor and should be done, the people do it knowingly, then you should have told him, at least on your end, if you think you're right.
Exactly.
But he didn't.
Exactly. So even like just leading up to this episode, I thought Ragnar was like, I mean, he was approaching Uhtred status, I felt.
He was getting
how cool of a protagonist we had. I mean, he was so awesome. And I still love him. I always will. But these were the first two, like the last two episodes of season 1 kind of made me, there's just a couple things that happened that made me not like him a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the first one was like kind of doing that to Ethelstan and not telling him and then being mad at him when like
it was not just the not telling him, it was the being mad at him then too.
Yeah.
For not wanting to die. And it was like after not telling him. That's and that's another thing too. I feel like with the show, they just sometimes they'll have characters you like just do mean things for like no reason, just to have something happen, I guess. And
But Ragnar was starting to go a little crazy when he found out Lega had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
That really affected him, you could tell.
But he did have a good bond with Ethelstan, though, too, is the thing.
But he did. But
I would say if they had a bro
Legatha.
Yeah, you're right. But it still just felt kind of strange, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. What were you going to say about bro moment?
And I'd say that they basically had a bro moment, him and Ethelstan, back when they were talking about like their religion and am I a slave?
I think they have several, even going in the later seasons.
Yeah. After that, then, the last episode of the season, I'd say is a little anticlimactic, but They definitely
it's
set up
weird.
for a lot of stuff.
It's a weird last episode because it seems like season 2, episode 1 should be the season finale of season 1.
Yeah.
But they pretty much just set up a new plot at the end of season 1. And we meet King Horik, too, in the sacrifice episode.
Yeah.
So let's talk about King Horik for a little bit.
Okay.
Who's another real character. He's portrayed by the guy from Grounded for Life. Which is kind of weird. Like, I think he does a good job for the most part.
I think he does a good job. It's just he's so recognizable. And, like, I recognize him from The Patriot as the guy who didn't like the African-American fighter from that was in their ragtag group under Mel Gibson's group. And so, like, every time I see him, he's not this character in everything he is, but I always picture him as, like, a hillbilly who is very racist. And, like, now he's this Danish king or this Norse
king or something, yeah.
And it's just it just that's what I see him every time. Like, for whatever reason, I see him as that. I'm like, that's who you are. Like, you're not King Horik, you're that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so interesting to see him in that role. I do think he does a good job though, overall.
Yeah.
But you're right. I can't not see him as the other characters he's played. So I love his entrance though. He comes in, he doesn't look like he's anybody, and he just like throws a chicken when all these priests or whatever they were at Uppsala were sleeping, and they all freak out and they start hitting him and stuff, and he's just like taking it and like, hey, this is your king.
Some guy comes in like, hey, this is your king, stop.
So he's like very playful. He's like a playful guy and mischievous and stuff, and he like he's heard of Ragnar. He takes a liking to him, and he gets Ragnar on his side. Like, they kind of have meetings and stuff, and
and he tells him about Earl Yarborg and how they're having some land disputes and how he wants him to help him settle it out. So that kind of happens here in the last episode.
Yeah.
Ragnar goes to him. Yarborg, pretty cool character.
I like the guy who plays Jarl Borg.
Yeah. And basically then Jarl Borg sets up some more distrust betwin Rollo and Ragnar.
Played by Thorbjorn Har.
Ooh, yeah. So he's a Scandinavian dude.
Yeah. Also, Horik is, I guess, Donald Log is his name. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't know. Maybe he is Scandinavian, this guy. I'm curious. No, he's Canadian. Well, this is apparently is this a Canadian show, I guess? Vikings.
I don't know.
I guess it's a Canadian show I've read.
But yeah, Jarl Borg, though, he's pretty much setting up this distrust between the brothers. He sends Floki back to send a message, can we negotiate? And he tells Ragnar, hey, there's this big-ass tree, and we think it's Yggdrasil. And if you know anything about Viking mythology, Yggdrasil is the world tree. It holds up the world and
holds up the sky, and
it holds up the sky, and it binds the world.
The serpent is gnawing at its roots, and the spinners, the Nuns, are watering it and putting mud on it and nourishing it, and they're the ones who decide fate. So and Odin hung himself from the tree, right?
Oh, he did. Jeez.
Yeah, apparently Odin sacrificed himself from the tree too. He hung himself.
I heard they said someone hung from a tree for Odin. I didn't know if it was
Odin did, and
yeah. So Ragnar's like, well, I gotta go check that thing out. So he sets off on a side quest, and Jarl Borg just pretty much gets Rollo on his side. Pretty much says,
pretty much scheming. Yeah,
Ragnar, he's bad.
Yeah,
and Rollo has been in like number 2 instead of number 1 for a while.
You've seen the jealousy growing, the envy.
Yeah. And I'd say it's one consistent plot line too, again, with the season. But anyway, Ragnar then comes in his group, 2 of his men come across a naked woman bathing in the water, who we find out is Aslog. And
what's her name?
Aslog.
Yep.
And
good
she's
pronunciation. And
I do have some Scandinavian roots, I think. Maybe. I don't know.
You might. I don't know.
She sends a message back with his guys like, hey, like, you've got to apologize to me because your guys looked upon my nakedness. And Ragnar's like, if she comes to me with, what's he say? Neither clothed nor naked, neither fed nor hungry,
yep,
and neither alone nor in company. So she's like, I understand what to do. She comes in with a fishing net, so she's not clothed, but she's not naked. She's got a dog, so she's not alone, but not in company. And in the show, she's like eating an apple.
Yeah, I think the legend said she was eating like an onion, right?
Yeah, she was eating onion. And I was one of the books I've been reading, Norse Myths. They have this story here, and it's actually that's actually like a myth too at Ragnar and Aslog, who was renamed Crow too, depending on different stories you listen to.
I've seen like Kraka or something.
Yeah, she's got
Kraka, Kraka, I guess.
Yeah. Apparently she was like renamed after some other parents found her after something else. It's like a soap opera, the Norse myths. It's like that. And so
she claims to be the son or the daughter of Sigurd, who fought and killed a dragon, and the great shield maiden Brynhildr.
Yeah,
I think. And so she is somebody, and Ragnar is intrigued. And Bjorn is there on this quest too, because he wanted to bring Bjorn. And Bjorn's like, "Why are you meeting with her? Like, what are you doing?" And he's like, I just want to see what it's all about. He's just curious. And also, by the way, she's got these like crazy shield maidens that guard her that are really badass too. So didn't get much on them after this, but
no, yeah, I wondered if they're a real thing too. I think later on we see more about shield maidens and stuff, so we'll probably cover that. But it was cool to see them here. Yeah. And like, are they a thing? But yeah, like he ends up basically getting to know her. There's definitely chemistry between them when they first meet. They both are interested in each other. And, they just spend their nights doing the horizontal tango with Bjorn on the floor having to listen to it. Yeah. Poor guy.
I know.
Poor little guy. And
this is another thing that's like Ragnar, dude, like Lagertha, man. Look what's going on.
Like you got a 10 out of 10 at home. Like
I know.
What you looking around for other 10s,
I know. So Bjorn's not happy. No. Bjorn confronts him about it. And Ragnar's just like, why'd I bring him? No, Bjorn is like, promise me it won't happen again. And Ragnar does. He's like, I promise. And then he's just like, he does like one of those when he leaves. But I think in a way he's kind of proud of his son, like for sticking up to him. And
he cares about his son. And that's at least one thing too, at least in the first season. Ragnar does feel like he has a pretty solid relationship with his son Bjorn. Yeah. And that is one thing I really do like about him. Yeah. And she just comes like in the middle of the night again, just like lifts up the skirt and just jumps on. And Ragnar's like, no means no, asslog. And, and she's like, no. And he's like, no.
And she leaves.
And she's
Bjorn's happy.
PO'd. And that Ragnar's probably in like excruciating pain right now.
Yeah.
But it was like, all right, good for you.
Right.
But then later, he's thinking about his life down by the river. She comes up to him and he's like, I'm carrying your child. And he's just like, crap. The one time I cheat.
Exactly.
The one time I do.
I know.
And it pretty much just ends with like a bunch of symbolism.
It's kind of cool, though.
It is cool.
Like the music, how the music plays, and it's showing like Rollo making his decision.
Yeah. To join Jarborg.
Yeah. I think it shows Lagertha a little bit, showing like Ragnar walking around the halls.
Yeah.
And
he goes to Aslog's room, and at first I thought like, oh, is he going to kill her to cover it up? But then he just like lays down with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where it ends. And that's the end of the first season. And like you said, I don't think it's possible to watch season 1 and not immediately jump into season 2.
Yeah.
Because they set up a whole new thread after that.
Exactly. I just thought of something too that I thought was kind of funny.
What?
Remember when Ethelstan was left to watch the kids when Lagertha and Ragnar go raiding earlier in the season?
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out, he's having this existential crisis. He's looking for a sign of what to do. Bjorn's been mean to him. Bjorn told him he wants to sacrifice him. And then he's like sitting there praying. He's like, give me a sign. And he hears something. And there's an owl in the house. And he's just looking at this huge owl staring at him. An owl. Like, how many times do you see an owl? And he's just like, Oh, it's just an owl. All right.
I
It
don't
was a
know.
sign. Thought it was a sign.
Definitely not a sign.
It's just an owl.
Just a random owl that came into the house and is fine with being around people.
Oh my god. So yeah, so that was season 1. And it was, it's really hard to not watch the next episode.
Yeah.
So I can't
And
imagine
the next episode is like the best shirts versus skins face down game ever.
I know. It's great. So we'll have to talk about that on the next episode of the Screen Chronicles.
But yeah, it was great watching that. Gonna definitely watch season 2. So thank you for listening, everyone. If you listen to us on podcasts, you can also watch this on YouTube. We have clips from the show and things like that in there too. And if you're on YouTube, you can listen to us on podcasts. You can listen to the whole thing at any point, all the social media stuff. And thank you again. Follow, like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you think, and it really helps guide us and what we talk about and think. So, and thank you for all the feedback so far too.
Yeah, and we want to hear what you guys think too. So let us know down below what you thought of Vikings and the things you liked and didn't like, and we just want to talk about it. So, adios, amigos.
Adios!